my swim time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my swim time. Gonna mess up your whole mind. This is my swim time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my swim time. Gonna mess up your whole mind.
Welcome to Work the Left Side. I'm hyper hyped to announce tonight's guest. I'm joined by Young Horus. How are you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, terrific, mate. Thanks for having me, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, buddy. It's all good.
For a while.
I think everybody's got stories to be told, and at the end of the day, we're chatting wrestling. What's not to love? So it's and also as well, I know it's going to come up at some point. I've got to speak to the man who obviously inspired El Bilzo at some point. So that's got to be.
I've always had Bilzo's corner. You know what? Happy to help him out in that respect.
Just I noticed, obviously, because I think ever since he popped up, you mentioned it to me. It's like you're always rocking the blue masks nowadays. It's like, yeah, we'll let Bilzo have the unneeded mask, and then you can rock out the new blue looking one.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not too sure where that mask has gone now. I think Sean Only's got it.
Well, he's got it like a trophy somewhere cabinet. It's probably
it'll either be in a trophy cabinet or it'll have been shredded somewhere. So we'll see how it goes. See if I can't get it back off of him one day soon.
So obviously anybody who knows we love El Bilzo though. But no, dude, and that's things. Well, it's stuff like that kind of, I love that shit. Where it kind of everything kind of intertwines. If you know something, it's like as soon as he made his debut and I saw the mask, I was like, oh, nice. Obviously, I made the connection. I was like, because at first I was like, oh shit, no, Horace is it? No, it's not. No, not unless he's had a haircut, which I know you hadn't. So I was like, okay, what's going on? And
I had a few people saying, have you got a tattoo? Have you got a big tattoo on your arm now? You're looking bigger now. And I was like, I was just taking it as a thank you very much.
Kayfabe, yeah, that's me, yeah, honest. Just getting hench, like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying.
Dude, don't lose the speed though. So, but yeah, it to me shows wrestling, in the Yorkshire area. You guys are so intertwined. Certain people know certain people. You kind of got your little circles and your cliques, and it's having people like that to kind of rely on, or that you can help. You can come to with an idea, and you kind of support each other.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've always found that, the people around me are probably your best critics, especially like promoters and stuff, and the people with a lot more experience than me. I mean, I've only been wrestling in front of audiences for about 3 years now. Training in total for about, I want to say 6 coming on 7 years now. I've been around everything, but and it's always I'm always looking to improve and looking for feedback, and in every one of my matches really seeing how I can improve and seeing what parts I need to make myself better and to be able to get that just take it to the next level really.
That's it. Because again, I've spoken to loads of people, kind of thing, and they all kind of sort of say, well, there's a name that'll pop up at some point. Like I was talking to Gung Ho Muttley kind of thing, and he was like saying, Sean Only, basically watched one of his matches, and he was like, yeah, that sucked, or not too much kind of thing, but basically it was like, no, this is everything you did wrong. You need to work on this kind of thing. And then he was like, oh shit. Okay, right. So got used to people being like, yeah, no, that's fine, that was good. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. As soon as somebody turned around and be like, right, this is what you need to work on, and so many people have said it, that's when you start to get better. You need criticism, but in a constructive way.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I have a lot of respect for Sean, because he'll just tell you how it is, and he'll be very upfront and direct with you. And it won't just be to like knock you down and say, oh, that was rubbish, that was terrible. He's always got something constructive to say. He's always got some sort of so he's always got a way, something in his mind that he thinks will improve it. And usually when he explains it to you, you can sort of look back and go, how did I not realize something so simple? I've had a lot of people say that they've just been, they've been given this feedback, and it's something so basic and simple, and it almost confuses you as to why, you know, it slipped your mind the first time, but you don't realize until someone points it out. And that little can be, you know, the difference between getting over with the crowd and not getting the reaction you wanted.
That's it. You know, it's crazy because obviously, you know, as fans, we kind of know what to look for, but it's not us, obviously, that book the shows and stuff. It's those little things that you'll learn or you'll get told that, you know, other wrestlers will notice or promoters will notice, and they'll be like, oh shit, you know, how smooth is this guy? Okay, yeah, we like this guy, you know, because you've just kind of got those little extraordinary bits.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but okay, well, let's get the generic thing out of the way. You kind of mentioned, you know, being around the business for sort of several years. Generic question, apologies, but I've always got to ask everybody. What got you into wrestling in the first place? You know, what made you go through those doors that first time, you know, to start training? Was it, you know, being a fan at a young age? You know, was it the drunken bet situation? Everybody's got a slightly different story to tell.
Yeah, well, like you say, I was always a fan from being very young. I think probably my first memories of watching TV was watching wrestling. I remember seeing Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and the Hardys doing their TLC crazy matches. I remember seeing them on the screen on TV and just being, you know, completely taken back by it all. And as you do, you know, as you grow up and life gets in the way, I sort of fell out of love with wrestling during like what you'd call the PG era, around about 2000 and probably maybe 2006, 2007 kind of thing. And I was only about maybe, you know, 8 or 9 years old at the time. And as you do, you know, the years go by, and I think it was actually my mum that was watching when I was still living at home with my mum. She was saying she used to watch the like Sunday morning highlights of like Raw and SmackDown, and I remember just, you know, coming and sitting and watching it with her, and sort of being able to pinpoint and just noticing like the way they've been able to work with each other, and sort of, you know, not the typical just enjoying it for that entertainment basis. I was watching it with, you know, in my mind, like, oh, this is all, you know, a load of rubbish now. I still thought it was all very still PG and very, you know, made for the, yeah, pantomime kind of style. And I remember watching it and just going, I think I turned to my mum and just went, I could probably do something like that. And, you know, just as like a passing comment, and she was like, well, go on then, we'll give it a Google, see if there's anywhere, you know, local that do wrestling. And I lived in a little town called Beverley at the time. It was just outside of Hull. It's a little market town outside of Hull. And so I gave it a quick Google, and I just came across New Generation Wrestling, NGW. And I was so shocked that I had never heard of them before and never come across it before. It was because they'd been around at the time since about 2008, so they were coming up to about the 10-year anniversary, I think it was. It might have been a bit later, to be honest with you, but I remember seeing it and going, oh my god, there's a wrestling school in Hull. It's literally in my backyard. I can go there and see what it's all about. And so I turned up into this little, it was like a little warehouse, almost like a little storage unit, just in like the industrial part of Hull. And I walked in there a bit, you know, sheepish, a bit confused as to like what was happening. And I just saw this like rusty little, I think it was like a little 16-foot ring. It might have even been smaller. It might have been a 14-foot ring. And it was the advanced class, actually. I think I come in on the Thursday, and it was an advanced class. So obviously I sat down with one of the trainers there, and he said, you know, this is advanced, but if you want to stay and watch and get a feeling of what, because I turned up with the intention of actually giving it a go. But they were saying, you know, this is the advanced class. This is where people have their actual matches. This is where, and I was like, oh, this is way too much for me. I was ready to leave, but they said, no, just sit and watch and see if you enjoy it. And I watched a match with a couple of lads. They don't even wrestle anymore. I think it was Kelvin Caton was one of them, and they had this match, and it finished with one of the lads. He did a dive off of the top turnbuckle, did like a flip and landed on him on the outside. I remember being like, "What? This is actually like actual wrestling." I thought it was just some, saddos in a storage unit playing wrestling, backyard wrestling kind of thing. And I was so shocked. And then I think they finished the match with like a 450. And I remember walking out there and sitting in the car with my mum and going, "It's legit. It's what you see on TV. Like it's really good." And they had, obviously, NGW they had their TV channel on. I think it was on ITV or on Freeview, and they were putting on a show. And I remember, searching up for that and watching that and being like, this is just like WWE, but it's British lads who are in Hull City Hall that I recognise, and it's people that, I've probably walked past them in the street and not even noticed. And it was just it really opened up the world of wrestling for me. Yeah, it was mind blowing. It opened up the world of wrestling. And I didn't know British wrestling was such a massive scene and had such a massive independent scene. And it just seemed like as soon as I entered that world, everything blew up. I started seeing NGW posters everywhere. There was a banner in Beverley, outside the Memorial Hall, where I literally lived around the corner from the Memorial Hall, and I'd never seen this banner before. I might have seen it, but I just never took notice of it. Yeah. And it was quite interesting to see, and quite an experience to see how big the world was. And it was about 2016 that I started, so British wrestling was just exploding, and they had all these names that were coming out, and starting to travel to America and get into WWE, and NXT UK was a thing that was just about to start. So it really felt like it was the perfect time to get involved in it. So I started training under Caz Crash, NGW. I absolutely love Caz. He's he was one of the most down to earth guys. Really, really cared about the people that he was training, and there was a big host of different types of people. There was athletes. There was people like me who'd never really been into sports, because I was never. I hated football. I hated PE. If it was one class in school that I could avoid, it was PE. I'd always end up skiving it, and it was just never, exercising and being like an athlete was never a thing. I was a little gamer. I used to just sit in my home and sit in my bedroom all night playing video games, and it was really, training. I trained for about a year under Caz, just doing basics, and during that time, I think probably about maybe 7 or 8 months in, we moved from this little storage unit to the Eastmount Centre, which is where NGW, I believe they still do the training now, and they even do shows there. And it was just a much bigger experience to be able to have that sort of space. And I remember turning up, and I think it was Matt Myers that said, "Oh, you should." I came up to him, I think, and said, "I've been doing this for about a year. Do you think I should maybe, move up to the advanced classes? I feel like I'm learning. I'm almost plateauing, because I feel like I've learned everything that I can do." Because it was very basic. It was just, this is how you take bumps. These are basic locks ups. This is how you basically work, technical wrestling, tech wrestling. And we learned like maybe a body slam and a suplex. I was always really good at posting for like a stalling suplex. I remember a lad held me for about 30 seconds, and I was just there, and I kept my body straight, and I was very happy with myself. I felt like it was something that I was naturally able to do, which is very strange for me, because I didn't have like a big list of talents that I was capable of. I didn't have a big list of passions. But as soon as wrestling came into the fold, I was like, this is something that I really want to do. And it was Matt who said, you should come give it a go, and you can see how it is. If you don't feel like you're up to it yet, you can always just keep doing your basic classes. And it was the first session I had. I trained with Ace Matthews, and I did my very first sort of shine sequence spot with Ace Matthews, and that I've still got the video on my phone of it, to be honest with you. And it was just a completely different world. It was I remember being so confused almost, because the way these guys were talking to me about their matches and explaining, going through the matches, it was just like, I don't understand this. I've been told to take a wrist lock and that was it. So now I'm learning to do, you know, jot downs, toe holds. We let them international in the basic classes, but advanced classes, it was doing full length matches, and it was a real. Even the cardio sessions at the start were completely different to what Caz was teaching us and what Caz was getting us through. Because it was just, they were just taking it to that next level, and it was people like Nathan Cruz and Matt Myers and Liam Slater. When he was around there, he was around for about a year training, and I remember doing sessions under them and doing five. They called it the 5-5 drill, and it was just doing, you know, 5 sends off, 5 ducks, 5 sleeps, 5 leaps, 5 up and overs, and doing it one after another, and it really, you know, takes it out of you. And there was several times that I threw up during class, during training, and having to just, you know, sort of get myself back up on the horse and keep going. And there was a lot of times where I doubted myself and felt like I wasn't capable of it. Especially at the time, I was about 7 stone, so, you know, it's 2.5 stone less than I am now. So I was just skin and bone. And I remember I did my knee in at one point, and I thought I'd really torn something. And it took me a bit of time. I remember my ribs were hurting. I remember my neck was hurting all the time. And it was really, you know, them saying to me, like, you need to put weight on. You need to build size, because not only does it make you look better, it makes you feel better, because you're not taking as much damage to your body. You've got some protection. And even putting on, like, I'm not the biggest guy. I won't ever admit to being the biggest guy around, but having put on a few stone, it really helped me. And I found that, but I didn't do that until after lockdown. It was during the lockdown period when you know, the big coronavirus was happening. It was during that period that I really said, right, I need to think about my nutrition. I need to focus on bulking and gaining weight. And it was during that period of time that I actually were able to put weight on. And it was after because I kind of gave up with it, to be honest with you. I kind of went, I'm not getting anywhere. I've been doing this for 3 years, because I was training, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday every week. They would do Tuesday classes beginners and they would do Wednesday classes advanced. And I would turn up every week, both sessions, be one of the very few people that would actually turn up to both sessions. And I would put the ring up on the Tuesday. I'd take it down on the Wednesday. I'd be making sure that I was helping out with postering, and I would turn up to Hull City Hall and set up the stage and help set up the ring and put chairs out. And I think I did merch at one point. I remember travelling up to Newcastle as well with JD Boom.
Wow, that's a name. That's a blast from the past.
It's people these were the type of people that I was around. I was around, you know. I remember seeing Amir Jordan wrestling at NGW. Will Ospreay came to NGW and wrestled Robbie X, and Kip Sabian was in NGW at the time, and it was around just about the time that they brought in the Beast from The Chase. He became, I think, an executive producer for NGW, and that was just, you know, it was just all, the world just kept expanding and expanding and expanding for me. And I'm seeing, you know, Kip Sabian in AEW now, and it's just the complete. It just completely blows my mind that, not that he could do that because he's very capable, but it's just that people from, I guess, around me, people that I knew and met and shook hands with, are now, I'm watching them on TV and I'm going, this is amazing. I get so excited every time I see Kip on TV, or whenever I see mention of him, because I'm just like, I knew him. And I'm seeing Robbie X now has just joined Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell is going on? How is that even possible? I never actually got to train with Robbie, but I watched him, you know, very closely. He would turn up to, I believe, a lot of the Hull City Hall shows. And it was, you know, watching him and going, this guy's he's keeping up with Ospreay. He's keeping up with, like, some of the best in the business. And I'm so happy now to see those sort of people have taken it to that next level, and they've been able to go international and get so much, critical acclaim. It's absolutely fantastic. And that's what's inspired me and motivated me to keep going, is that surely if people, if British lads can do that, then surely I can try and do that. And maybe I won't get to the same heights as a Robbie X or a Kip Sabian, but I'm going to give it a good go. And it was after lockdown, really, that I debuted.
Okay. Well, it was, obviously you've gone through all this kind of training and stuff. We'll pick up on the debut in a second, but yeah, man, I just want to rewind because that was. So I've just got to go back to JD Boom. I heard that name for a long time. I remember seeing him in Tidal. He was part of one of my favorite ever matches, which was a Lego death match. I've
seen clips of that Lego death match. I've seen them on. He's shown me so much of that, and it was crazy. I remember being like, "What, Lego? Really? I didn't even know that was a possibility." But then you think about it. You ever stepped on a piece of Lego?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably hurts a lot more than thumbtacks will.
It hurts, man, because that's the thing. That's what made me laugh about that match, was like when they announced it, it was all like, and then you stop and think about it for a second. It's like, oh, yeah. And then the match started again. It was all fun and games until somebody got body slammed on it, and it was like, oh, generally you could see people, men in the audience, like, dude, like you said, man, you step on one of those, it hurts.
Yeah, Boom was always one of like a big inspiration of mine, because he was. He was sort of like an everyday man who was so over with the crowd, just going out and being himself. And it was so impressive to me to be able to see someone he'd been doing it for about 8 years when I'd started. And it was about the same time that the Proving Ground Championship came out, and we were all, rooting. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to win it. But we were all rooting for him because he was the Hull lad. He was in our training group, because it was they kind of build it as they had Rampage's school up north in Newcastle in Chesterley Street, and there was then the Hull group, and they always pitched it as Hull versus the North, and so we were always gunning for him, and then like you say, Ace Matthews won the Proving Ground Championship at one point, and we were all buzzing for him because we were finally able to say that we're the best training school.
That's it. Yeah, and when there's a bit of competition in there, it kind of just, like I say, it just gives you that extra little bit of an edge, doesn't it? It gives you something to support. Yeah. Obviously, Ace is Ace. Glad to see, he's started off strong and doing stuff. But yeah, so obviously, yeah, you say you made your debut. So once you've gone through the training. I always like to get people's stories on the debuts kind of thing, because it's kind of like, if it's the debuts where they've trained, then you've kind of got that safety net. You kind of feel safe at home. It's always the kind of the debut away from the school that interests me, because that's kind of like, that's unknown. But you're going out into the wild and be like, oh shit, right, okay.
So I debuted in UKW at UK Wrestling in Batley. And I debuted in, I want to say, August 2021 now, was it? Probably. Yeah, looking back 3 years now. I've just had the anniversary. Wrestled at Aftermath, which is the pay-per-view that they had. And I debuted on there against Tom Steele. And it was actually supposed to be they called it a Genesis showcase match, because what they'd just done is they had, Leonie Rose was the current academy champion at UKW, and what they said was, right, we're getting rid of the academy championship, and the new academy is going to be Genesis Wrestling. And then it was Mustafa Khan who actually vouched for me, because he was the one who was training people at UKW, and he said to Jonathan Sedgwick, who runs the company, the promoter, he said, you've got to take a look at this guy, you've got to watch him work a match. And it was within about a month of training, because I only turned up there going, I'll give it a go. And if I can't, I really want to debut, and I really want to be able to wrestle in front of people, because I feel like I'm capable of doing that. And it was sort of, I guess, maybe self-doubt that was sort of holding me back. And so I turned up to UKW. I trained for a few months, and it sort of came back to me second nature. And it was Mustafa Khan that said, let's get you on a show, and let's see how you do in front of an audience. And because it's a completely different ballpark wrestling in front of an actual crowd as opposed to the other trainees. It's like night and day. It's not only is the atmosphere and the presentation of the show different, because you're just doing it in front of a training. There's no lights, there's no sound, there's no people, there's not a commentary team. You don't really you get reactions, but it's because they're giving you the reaction that you want in training. So you don't really know if something's working or not. And it was, they announced the new Genesis Championship. It was Mustafa Khan, and he said, right, we're going to have a Genesis showcase match, and it was Tom Steele, who was I think he was a previous 2-time Academy champion, and he was considered like quite a staple of the Academy and quite a big name in the UKW Academy. And it was him against myself, and unfortunately I didn't win. It's always nice to think, oh, win on your debut, but it's just how it is. He was so much more experienced than me, and it was really him that guided me through everything. I spoke to him before the match and said, I'm really looking forward to this. I appreciate the opportunity. And, he was more than helpful to make sure that I didn't, mess up, and he guided me through it. And I went in as a heel. And so it was very different to how I imagined myself. I always thought I was going to be a babyface, play the underdog. And, I went out there and I managed to get, reaction. I got boos. And so I felt like I did my job, but what cemented it afterwards was I came back and members of the crowd were talking to me and saying, have you wrestled before? Have you wrestled at other companies? I went, no, this is my first time wrestling in front of a crowd. And they're going, oh, wow, we thought you were doing this regularly. We thought you'd been doing this at least, a year. And I went, no, I've been training for a long time, but it's been a while since I've, really stepped into a ring. And UKW's ring is 20 feet wide. So it's completely different to working in a 16-footer. You're completely taken out of your element. You've really got to build your cardio up. And I was so proud of myself to be able to, not only keep up, but convince people that I was doing this a lot longer than I actually had been. So it was really UKW that gave me my first opportunity to wrestle for them, and I couldn't be more grateful to UKW and to Jonathan and Mustafa Khan, who gave me that opportunity. Without Mustafa, I wouldn't have been on the show.
Dude, I was going to ask about that. The 20-foot ring, because I've seen plenty of UKW stuff, and obviously the first thing I noticed was, man, that ring's huge. And as you were saying beforehand, like being somebody who's like, no, man, I don't want to do PE. So then imagine just stepping out and looking at that 20-foot ring and being like, oh shit, it's just running the ropes as a cardio session.
Yeah, it was a complete cardio session, and I probably like to say now that I do have a lot better cardio than what I used to. I remember, it get past when I was first training, doing like a 15-minute warm up, and I'd be blowing out of my ass trying to keep up with everybody else who had been doing this for years. For me, I remember there was 2 lads I was about 17 at the time when I started training, and there was 2 lads who were about 14, 15, I want to say, and they were also training in the beginners class because they were very advanced and they were just leagues ahead of me. And I remember watching them and going, I need to keep up with these lads to be able to even have a chance. And and it was always a matter of, they say don't focus on what everyone else is doing, focus on yourself. But when I watched other people, it was that motivation to go, right, I need to be as good as.
I think there's a balance. There's definitely a balance to it. You can't be distracted, but you kind of need those goals. If you can see somebody just ahead of you, you kind of want to I want to catch up a little bit. You kind of push yourself to catch up with them. I get it, but it does work sometimes.
I think maybe that might have actually been something that kind of was a detriment to myself, to my training, because I think at one point I did really focus on what everyone else was doing. And seeing all these other people, debuting and seeing them all being able to wrestle for NGW. And I think it probably got into my own head of, why am I not doing this yet? why am I not there yet? And to be honest with you, I didn't even have the Horus character when I was at NGW. I didn't have the mask. I didn't have even the concept of it. I think I wanted to be like a preacher kind of gimmick, like sort of similar to Bray Wyatt, kind of like a cult leader. But I realized very quickly that very early on, my promo wasn't at the same standard as someone like Bray Wyatt, and I wasn't able to capture an audience the same way as he did. So I kind of had to just rely on, my wrestling and being able to outspeed my opponent and do that sort of thing and get that. That's the kind of response that I wanted. I remember being told once that I didn't have a very likable face either. I don't know if I just had like a bitchy wrestling face or if they just thought I was ugly or what, but I was told that I would, crowd would never get behind you. Crowd would never get behind you. You're not likable. You need to be like a little rat. And I was like, okay, that's not really what I'm hoping for. Like, I want to be able to, my goal it was always kind of like my goal as a wrestler to be able to inspire people that are my own size and to sort of go like, I can do this so other people can. Wrestling's not for every single person. I didn't think wrestling was for me. It's really an athletic, business, and you've really got to commit a lot of yourself to it. But at the same time, if it's not always about being 250 pounds and over 6 foot tall, it's not, especially nowadays, and watching like NXT UK and seeing a lot of these smaller guys getting opportunities, that was what motivated me. So I wanted to sort of be the next generation of that, to be able to motivate other people and go, you can do this, you give it a try at least. Don't count yourself out before you've given it a go.
That's it, if you can inspire somebody to get in the ring and if they like it, awesome, jobs are good and kind of thing. Like you said, it comes in all shapes and sizes now. That's the wonder of it, kind of, that's the magic, that's the variety that people want from a show. But yeah, man, I just think, the whole, dude, Vince McMahon thought Christian Cage was ugly. Some people are just fucking idiots. They just don't appreciate the good stuff when they see it. So, don't worry about
it. I'd said, well, why couldn't you put me in a mask, maybe? And that was probably about 2018, 19, and it was, you can't wear a mask. There's other wrestlers with masks. Why would they book you if there was, when there's someone who can wrestle a much better match than you, who's much more over than you, who, can do so much more and will be, draw a lot more people than you. So it kind of like sort of pushed me out of the idea of ever wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until COVID and during this lockdown period that I'm there. Like, I've still got all the old sketches in a like a little notebook of just coming up with different designs and thinking, what can I do that's original that I've not seen before? Because I remember searching up and doing so much research on all these different masked wrestlers, and there was one thing that I did notice was that nobody had ever used the Eye of Horus on their mask as an eye. I've seen it like on the forehead before. I've seen slight variations, but nobody's ever just taken the Eye of Horus. I've got it tattooed on my arm. It's my first ever. It was my first tattoo, and it's always the symbol of it is to represent, strength and sort of self. What's the word? Sort of good health in general. Just to, and that's something that I've always thought. Like, I look down at it and it keeps me motivated to keep going, and even when things are tough. And it was that sort of symbol that I went, right, I want to embody this symbol. I've always been interested in sort of Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology, and that was always something that I've really enjoyed. And if I could afford, I would be covered head to toe in tattoos, and I want to get like a Minotaur and Medusa, and I wanted to get Anubis and all these different tattoos. They're all on my bucket list. They're going to be done eventually, probably.
I know how expensive it is, dude. So I'm right there with you, kind of thing.
But I want them to be high quality, so I don't want to just be getting anything. And what I put on my body is something that I put a lot of thought into it, and that's kind of how I came across, coming up with the mask, and I actually built the mask myself. My mum is actually she's I believe she actually trained as a seamstress, So I was very lucky in that regard that I was able to go, I've got this design. And she was like, right, let me help you. Let's do it. And I remember having a conversation with her and saying, I could put it on and absolutely hate it. And she's going, it's okay, try it though. We'll do it. We'll give it a go. And I remember training in the black and yellow mask at UKW and going, I could either really like this and get used to it, or I could never want to wear it again. And it just happened that I felt very comfortable under it. I felt like it sort of helped personify the character. And I could wrestle without the mask. I can still wrestle without the mask. I've done it before, but I've always found that the Horus character is that sort of is what I've been looking for. It's that inspiration to the smaller guys, and that it represents the underdog in any situation.
So do you find as well? Because that's the thing I'm always curious about. People who wear a mask. Again, I hear different stories. Obviously, I spoke to Billy, just after El Bilzo's debut, and he's like, "Fucking hated the mask. I hate wearing it because obviously it's not designed for him." So,
no, very shit to my face.
Yeah, so his peripheral was totally fucked. He was like, I couldn't see anything. He was very much like, bollocks. I've got to go forward. That's it. But other people sort of say, obviously when the mask is fit for them and it fits perfectly, and it's like a second skin. You can unleash. You kind of got your inhibitions kind of just vanish because it's like it's not really me. It's like in your case, you're like, oh, it's Horus. I mean, I've got this mask on. People can't see my face. You know what? Let's go nuts.
Exactly. It's like it's channeling another part of me, because I was always told when when you're thinking of like your character or what you want your gimmick to be, it should always be yourself dialed up to like 11. And there's always the best examples of that, Rock and Austin, who are just they are themselves but dialed up to that extra level. And I was never able to really find something that was I didn't know who I was really. I was only 17, 18 at the time when I started training, so I didn't even know myself. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. I didn't know what my talents were. I didn't know who I was really as a person. Still finding yourself at that age. And it was coming across the Horus character. I say I come across like, because it almost sort of came to me. It's sort of like a eureka moment of, let's go with the Egyptian theme. Let's do the mask. Let's have this, this symbolism and see where it goes. And I did feel like it really brought out my confidence, and it brought out that sort of ability to capture an audience, because people see it and they remember the mask. Like you say, when Bilzo came out, you thought it was me at first, and that's what I want. I don't want to do, because there's a lot of people that'll just get a mask from online. They'll buy it online. They'll maybe copy another wrestler's mask. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be just a carbon copy, or just sort of like a cheap imitation of someone who's actually established themselves, of a real wrestler. I wanted to be my own wrestler. I wanted to be myself. And this is what came about, really. This is how it manifested.
I think as well, it does help because, especially like you sort of said, with the confidence, it helps, with the confidence going out there. But I think in regards to relating to the audience as well, like I sort of said, the kids especially, you're coming out, if you're the face, you're the underdog. The kids are going to be rooting for you. They straight away associate like the mask with, it looks like wrestling. You look like a professional wrestler because of the mask straight away before you've even done anything. The kids were invested. The mum and the dads are like, yes, they know their kids are gonna. If you sold those masks, so at shows, the kids are like, yep, I'll take one of those. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I do, and they sell like hotcakes. They're really popular, and it's great to see people coming out. And when I come through the curtain at UKW and there's kids wearing the Horus masks in blue and black, and it's those moments of, wow, I'm actually making a connection here. I'm actually achieving what I'd like to, and inspiring people.
I'm always curious as well, because you're wearing the mask. Because again, a lot of people sort of say, there was that firm. I'm going to go old school, but when Eric Bischoff went through a phase of like demasking all the luchas in WCW, it's because he had this belief of wrestling fans needed to see your face so you could emote, emotion during matches and stuff like that. Well, I've always kind of thought that was bollocks. Obviously people have been wearing masks for years, doesn't stop them anyway. But I can find that you use your body more to tell a story. You sell more with your body than obviously with your face. I'm guessing that's something you've obviously had to work on. As soon as you put the mask on, was it a case of like, right, okay, I need my mannerisms need to change. I need to emote more with like my shoulders and my arms and my back and stuff.
I think I was always quite dramatic in that sense, because I was I did train. Well, I studied as in drama at school. I was more of a theatre kid as opposed to like a sporty kid, and that sort of stage acting was able to, because you have to be very emotive. You can't just expect it to be in your face, because not everybody in the audience is going to see your face at the back of the room. You need to be able to show out and express yourself that way. And I feel like you say, it did almost become like a second nature to me. It just sort of clicked, and it just sort of worked for me. I was just like I said, I could have put the mask on and gone, I hate this. I couldn't ever want to do something like this. But I've seen photos of myself, and you can read the expression on my face just by looking at my eyes and my mouth. And I haven't got like the big eye holes like most wrestlers wear masks have. I've only got little ones that fit to the actual shape of my eye, and you can still see the emotion coming out in me. And that's something that I was like, I don't want to wear, a full mask where you can't see the mouth, can't see the nose, can't see the eyes. I think it was Rey Mysterio that I sort of looked at and went, I like the way, because you could still tell what he was feeling and his emotion when you looked at his face. And that's what I wanted to keep there. I still wanted, because I'm still a very emotive person. I'm very emotional. I probably wear my heart on my sleeve quite a bit too much, but so I wanted to still be able to get that out there. And but it's a case of being very vocal as well, and being able to sort of shout out when you're needing to sell these moments and express yourself. And like you say, with your body language, you need to be able to tell the story through your actions, as opposed to just what's on your face. I think a lot of people sometimes fall into the habit of, well, if I look sad on my face, it doesn't matter how my body acts. Or if I look happy in my face, it doesn't matter how I stand. So it is a case of like, I have to acknowledge what my face is doing, what my body's doing, how I'm sounding, how I'm projecting. It is a constant thought process, and I'm still getting the hang of it. Like you say, I've had feedback off of people like Sean Only, or feedback off of people like Leonie Rose and Ace Matthews when I was training with him. And it's just, you've got to express yourself a lot more, and you've got to be able to, it's just little things that you can tweak to be able to improve.
That will come with like you sort of said, confidence. The more you do it, the more your confidence builds. It'll just become more and more like second nature. Like you're saying already, a lot of it is becoming second nature anyway. So that's you leveling up every time. It's just like, the less you have to think about it, and the more you do it, you're just getting more and more comfortable. Dude, I've got to address, I saw a photo on your socials when I was looking through stuff. I need to find this match somewhere. I need to watch this match. I apologize if PTSD, but you against Tim Strange.
Oh yeah, I am. That was a right experience. That was Tim Strange, probably the biggest name that I've wrestled up to date. And he was, like you said, gentleman in the locker room, absolute savage in the ring, just a complete beast of a man. I remember seeing him and thinking, like, how am I supposed to stand up to this? And I'm thinking, is it a photo where it's the back of me sort of standing?
Yeah.
It is, and you look up, and I quoted that with the the quote from the Bible that says, "I looked upon a pale horse, and on it was death. And because it was that whole match is probably about 10 to 12 minutes of me just having the chops, just all the way through the match. It was not only on the chest, it was on the back. It put me over my own match table and chopped the hell out of me. And it was an experience, but I gave it my best. I gave it my best shot because that's what people want to see. They wanted to see that underdog try and get that victory. And like you say, I wasn't successful. It was an absolute, sorry to spoil it because you hadn't seen the match, but it probably doesn't come as a surprise to you that Tim absolutely leathered me. And but like you say, before the match, complete gentleman in the locker room. Yeah, we'll go out there, we'll have some fun, it'll be really good. And then it kind of flips, the switch flips, and you go, oh no, I'm in trouble. And yeah, I'm just glad that he didn't like border toss me out of the ring or something like that into the crowd. It could have been a lot worse than what it was. But that experience, that match with Tim, was the first time that I've ever had my chest split open by a chop.
Ooh.
So I was actually bleeding in my chest from that. I think I still got a scar on my chest from his chops. So I'll always have a bit of Tim Strange, walking around with me. And it'll always be, it's always very close to my heart. But like I say, Tim is such an inspiration because he is that character that people just love. It doesn't matter if he's a good guy, he's been a bad guy. It doesn't matter how he's been on the night. People are entertained by him. And that's something that I really want to be able to achieve, is just to get that entertainment factor no matter what I do.
That's it. That's the thing as well, because I think especially now, you guys have to be so versatile. Like as I said there, Tim, I love the thought of that match. I love the thought of you two going up against each other. It is David versus Goliath. It's just that classic kind of thing. But it's having that versatility, like say with somebody like Tim. He can go to like a Rise. He can do his death matches. He can go to Kumite. But he can rock up at Butlins and do a family show, and people are going to connect with him. And I think a lot of you guys, I can see it with yourself, kind of thing. You could go to a Butlins and the kids are going to pop huge, but then you could go to somewhere like like a True Grit or a Rise, even somewhere like that, and just do the more, I'm not saying hardcore stuff, but you could do you could entertain the smarter fans.
Yeah, like you said, I'd probably be interested in doing the hardcore sort of stuff. I've had a street fight at UKW. I've done hardcore matches, but the sort of like deathmatch level things, like what you see at like Kumite, that's just a complete. I actually saw a clip today of Tim Strange powerbombing, I think it was Danny Darko, onto like a flaming, like I don't even know what it was. It was just a tray on fire, I think it was, and there was Danny's scar all over his back. He's got like a diamond pattern on his back now. And I'm seeing Tim he's getting branded and he's being shot at with fireworks. He bottled someone the other day in America, and then he's getting his head caved in with a cowbell. Like, that's stuff that I could not do that. I will put my hands up straight away and say I couldn't do that. But if you want to put me in a Lego death match, or you want to put me in a table, ladders and chairs match, I will do that. I've had a ladder match at Kingdom Wrestling. It was a 4-way ladder match with Gareth Angel, Jimmy Jackson, and Gung Ho Muttley, and that was a really fun experience to be able to work with ladders. And because I always think that, like, when I approach those sorts of matches, I don't want to just do that, just attack each other with anything possible, and what I mean. I want there to still be that story. I still want there to be that explanation of what's going on, and I still want people to connect with it, as opposed to just, oh, he's hitting with light tube, that looks sick. Oh, he's hitting with a tray, that looks sick. I want there to be a meaning behind it, and I want there to be a reason behind it. I worked in a ropes match with Remus Kane, and that was, like you said, that's just a completely different environment. I've worked a steel cage match with Remus Kane, and that's a completely different environment, and those sorts of things I was willing to do. Like, I had my third match was a steel cage match with Rex Savage.
Oh.
And I got power bombed off the top of the cage. I nearly won the match, to be honest with you. I got over the top of the cage. I got down to the bottom. My feet were about a foot away from touching the ground. And then Rex just reached through the cage, grabbed my hair, and then proceeded to just drag me back up the cage, put me up on his shoulders, and he just powerbombed me off the top. And that was the end. That was the end of me for that. But like, I was always willing to do that. I'm always willing to have these sort of, you know, stipulation matches. But like you say, I've wrestled. You mentioned Butlins, but I've never had the chance of wrestling at a Butlin show. I've only ever heard amazing things about them, because NGW did a lot of Butlin shows.
I'm sure you will.
I did of working for Stockport Plaza Wrestling, and they have they probably get about 350 to 400 people in a show, and it is 70% of the crowd are kids. And you step through the doors, and there's a few photos on my social media, and it's just a sea of hands all wanting to just get tapped in. You going down, and they're all, can I get a selfie? Can I get a selfie? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. And it's so fun to be able to have that sort of connection with the audience. And unfortunately, Stockport Plaza they only do about 2 or 3 shows a year, and I'd love for them to do more, because I love the opportunity every time that I've worked for them. I've worked for them twice this year, and it was just a completely new experience. It was complete, like, even just down to the venue itself, because they had a balcony. So it's a proper theatre with like with, you know, a stage, and it's got on like an organ and like a like an orchestra pit at the bottom of the stage, and it is that sort of, I can liken it. It's probably the closest as I've ever been to like a Butlin show, where you have those seas of children who are just loving everything that is happening, and they're really up for it. And those sort of crowds are just crazy. And then you spend an hour afterwards doing the meet and greet, and you stood in the ring, you're meeting all these people, and there's a big line of like 100 people that runs to the back of the theatre, and you're watching it, and you don't see it go down for about half an hour, because it's still massive. And I'm buzzing for that. That's the sort of stuff that I live for, because it's meeting these people and them going, oh, I remember you from last time in March or whenever it was that you were back there. And I'm going, that's amazing, thank you so much. You know, it is that sort of recognition that I appreciate. And it's nice to be able to as well go out on the town and not, you know, go outside and not be recognized because I'm not wearing the mask. It keeps it separate.
But it's validation, isn't it? It's like you said, it's that recognition. It's sorry, I got dry throat there. It's the validation. You know, you're doing something right. If these people remember you, you know, it's not just a mask. You know, anyone could put a mask on. It doesn't mean that you're going to get remembered or appreciated. You've obviously been doing something right.
Yeah,
they've enjoyed it. You've come back, and they've been like, yes, right, cool, awesome, you're back. We loved you at the time. Hyped to see you again.
Yeah, exactly. Validation. That's probably the best word to describe it, because like you said, like I've said before, I've had a lot of doubts in myself, and it was a lot of, you know, issues with motivation and self-confidence, and am I capable of doing this? Well, I must be doing something correct if I'm getting the reactions that I am. And I can only put that down to the training that I've had, both at NGW and at UKW, and even under like Fountains and Kingdom training under Sean Only. And I can only put it to these people that have, you know, Nathan Cruz, Matt Myers, Liam Slater, Sean Only, Mustafa Khan, these people who have molded me and been able to shape me into what I'm doing today. I must be doing something right, because those are the lessons that I take from them. I take their lessons and I try and implement it. It's only what I've been taught by them that I do. It's not some. I don't have this sort of overinflated idea of, oh well, everything that I do is sick, and I can just go and do whatever I want and I'll get a reaction, and as long as the boys in the back pop, that's all that matters to me. I don't care about that. I care about getting the reaction from the crowd. I care about the people, like you say, remembering me, and having that validation from people who watch and go, yeah, have you been wrestling for this amount of time? You've been doing this for years. No, this is my debut. And that was probably one of the biggest moments of my career was just having that debut and having that validation after the match of people thinking that I've been doing this for years. Because they were saying like, your league's above other people that we've seen that are new. And I don't like to be arrogant and say that, I'm one of the best young up and coming wrestlers in Britain or something like that. I don't have this ego about myself, but I do have confidence now to be able to say that I can wrestle, I can work, I can call a match if I need to. I can get someone who has maybe done 6 months of training and has got no idea about the character or even how to work a match, and I can get them through a match. And I've been responsible for a lot of people's first matches, especially in like UKW, where there's a big sort of training scene and a lot of like young up and comers who are giving it a go. And at UKW, they're more willing to give those people opportunities. And it was because of UKW that I was given that opportunity to work. And then I was able to, like you say, I've been up and down the country now to be able to work in Birmingham. I've worked in York. I've worked in Stockport. I've worked, all these different places. I was in, I've worked in Fleetwood, which was like a 3.5-hour journey that I went up with B.A. Rose. And that was the first time I ever met B.A. Rose. And I was in his car driving 3 hours with him and talking with a few of it was Aidan Sparks and Percy Malone. Yeah. And it was the first time meeting these guys. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea. Like I was just nervous to meet them. And especially when you watch some of the B.A. Rose's work in the ring, you're like, oh, this guy must be an absolute savage. Yeah. But it was like you say, like when I met Tim Strange, one of the nicest people that I've ever met. One of the most down to earth and sound people that I've ever met. I travelled up to Billingham. I think it's Billingham up near Newcastle with B.A. Rose to go and do breakout wrestling. And I went up there and I actually refereed that show. I was refereeing the match that B.A. was in because he had a Monsters Brawl match. And it was just crazy. I ended up landing on a frying pan at one point. And I broke the handle snapped underneath me.
That's as close as you get to death matches. That's it. It's like, no.
I would love to get to. Yeah, that was as close as I'd like to get. Things like thumbtacks and light tubes, like I say, it's not something that I've ever really been interested in. But tables, ladders, chairs, that's some kendo sticks. I come out with a kendo stick a lot of the time because usually I find myself outnumbered. So if there's any way that I started to, sort of use that hardcore Horus persona that I started getting when I chased after the hardcore championship at UKW, and I was wrestling Tommy Dillon in street fights. That's the sort of, I brought that on with my, I carried that on, and people recognise the kendo stick because I've got the black and yellow tape around it. They recognise, and it's something recognisable that I can use to then, give myself an edge in the future if I ever need it. Luckily, I haven't ever had to actually use it just yet, but
yeah, fingers crossed. But again, as you sort of said, I can tell, from talking to you, psychology within matches and storylines is a massive thing. You get psychology, and like so said, just having that kendo stick is something you could work into a match or storyline if you needed to. If not, it's a prop. You got it there. Yeah. But if the need ever arose, if somebody did want to try and jump you, it makes sense to the fans psychologically. That it's like, right, okay, if you were to fight them off, it's because you got the stick.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something to, it's just my little, like a lot of people have like their preferred weapon. And I think I remember taking a chair shot once and it hit me across like my lower spine. I felt like because I'm not a big guy, like you say, so a chair across my back covers my entire back. So it was complete accident. It was just like the rim of, I think it was one of the legs of the chair, just hit me in the back, in the lower spine, and I had a big bruise. And I'm being like, I don't like that. Take a few kendo stick shots. I'm like, I can endure this. And like I say about endurance, wrestling people like Tim Strange, wrestling people like Asylum, I've been able to sort of like build that durability up. And now when I get chopped, it's, I can shrug it off half the time because a lot of, smaller guys who think that they've got a good chop behind them are nothing compared to Mustafa Khan, Tim Strange, People like that are massive, and that's sort of something that I've found is almost unique to me.
Yeah.
Is that because I've got this experience?
If you can take a chop off of Tim Strange, then yeah, nobody else is going to come close, really. There's not many guys in the UK that will chop as fierce as Tim. But yeah, just confirm what you said as well. Tim, love Tim to pieces. I meant to say it earlier, obviously. B.A. Rose as well, Uncle Deathmatch. Again, I've never, he's not been on the show, but I've spoken to him at shows a few times, like True Grit and stuff. And oh man, he's such when you kind of start talking to somebody, you're like, oh crap, and he talks to he's like, oh, you're lovely. Oh, I love you. Yeah, you're really nice. Oh,
yeah.
Just like.
Well, I remember having people, because I'm quite close with Young Horus, and despite our differences in the ring and the many times that she's hit me, low blowed me in the ring, I've had to, I've developed a lot of respect for her. And I remember someone turning around to me, a member of the audience, and going, why do you like her? Why do you think she's all right? She's horrible. And I'm going, you only know her for the hour that you watch her, or the 15 minutes in a match that you watch her once a week. You don't know her 24 hours a day. And that's what, everybody's different. And you find that the people who are the scariest in the ring tend to be the nicest outside of it.
Because they can be, they've got nothing to prove. I've said that so many times. Like literally, like I said, I've had Tim on here, Franco Fate, Alton Thorne, Kemper. I've had all the big boys on, and they are, for the most part, like the most softly spoken, just nicest guests. Because it's kind of like, what? They're just big guys. They don't need to be fierce. Nobody's got to mess with them anyway. They can be as soft as they want to be. I still won't fuck with them.
Yeah, exactly. Kemper's a name that I've actually spent a lot of time around. I've done a lot of traveling with him because he actually lives quite close to me, and we spent a lot of time talking about as you do when you're in the car, you write the wrongs of the world, don't you? You always talk about anything and everything, and he's one of the most softly spoken, nicest guys. And I remember Leonie Rose asking me, oh, what's Kemper like? I've got to drive up with him because I'm good. I'm doing wrestling in Newcastle. I've got to travel with him. And I think it was Ian Skinner that he traveled with.
Wow.
And she was, oh, is he okay? Is he scary? And I'm like, no, he's an absolute gentleman. He's one of the nicest people you'll speak to. And like she came back and she's going, yeah, absolutely nothing to worry about. It was a laugh. I had an absolute great time.
That's it. I'd be more worried about Skinner, just not be able to get a word in edgeways, just Skinner.
I've actually I don't think I've ever actually met Ian. I've not had the pleasure.
I've from what I see on the socials, and he's very vocal. He's got a charisma or a cockiness about him where I can just imagine if I'm in a car with him for 3 hours, I'm probably getting 5 minutes of conversation. That's how I would imagine it to be.
Yeah, well, as long as he's got a good story to tell, I don't mind. I don't mind listening.
That's the one. Dude, just got time. Fuck, we got over the sort of hour mark. I want to go back to something you said. Obviously, you mentioned Sean. You mentioned. We said beforehand we'd bring this up just to give Gareth a shout out. Obviously like Kingdom, GTM. Yeah, I know you've worked for those guys. Obviously, we've had Gareth on the show previously. Yeah, just how do you find it all? Because for me, like I say, I think for people who don't know what they do, being in the church, it's kind of a really surreal experience. You know what I mean? You can go watch a wrestling match and then get baptized, or you can go watch a wrestling show and then sort of hear a load of, different lines from the Bible kind of thing. It seems like a weird, but yeah, kind of.
Always, they do have specific shows where they will, they'll spend their time preaching a sermon and explaining parts of the Bible and that sort of thing. And then they'll maybe do like a David and Goliath match because it's part of the Bible, or they'll do something that they'll tell a story. They'll relate the wrestling to what they're trying to talk about. But then I was at the Kingdom Wrestling show in Saltaire last weekend, and that was just pure wrestling. It had maybe about 10 minutes just before the interval where Gareth was talking about, I can't remember exactly what he was talking about, but he was speaking about, I think, mental health and that sort of thing. And you know, Gareth is a big advocate for mental health and especially men's mental health, and he started since opening Kingdom Wrestling in Saltaire and that sort of becoming like the home of Kingdom Wrestling really at St. Peter's Church. He started to have women's self-defense classes and men's mental health sessions where, you know, anybody can turn up and just talk about how they feel. And that sort of thing, I feel like, you know, it needs to be focused on, and it needs more attention to it. And so, and especially when you're with the churches, they have that sort of, they have a go-to audience of people who will travel regularly to that, you know, to the church and maybe have never come across wrestling before or not even considered some of the things that, you know, Gareth offers. And it is nice to be able to open up that world for them. Like I've said before, I didn't know about British wrestling before I found out about NGW, and now it's a giant universe for me. It's like it takes up my entire life. I can't scroll social media now without a, you know, 50 wrestling posts being on. It's all that I see on social media now. It kind of gets annoying sometimes because sometimes I just like to be like, what's happening in the world? Is there any news that I need to pay attention to? Nope. Someone's wrestling a show. And it's great. It's great to see how it's just expanded.
I see. I think that's the thing. I think obviously the church, well, it works either way. You know, if the church is the hook for the non-wrestling fans and then they get a love for wrestling as a result,
Yeah.
or the wrestling is a hook for the non-churchy type fans and they get an appreciation for the message, or, you know, because, you know, anybody who finds anything that helps them, I'm all for. It might not be something I believe in, but if you believe in it and it helps you and it makes you feel better, if it makes you a better person, go nuts. You know,
Yeah. I'm not a religious person by any means, but the messages that Gareth teaches, you don't have to necessarily do it in a church. You could do it
anywhere.
You could do it in any environment and it'd still have the same message. It just so happens that you know, Jesus and God and the church is something that is very close to Gareth, and is something that is sort of, I guess, without speaking for Gareth, it's something that saved him and has become such an important, integral part of his life. So why not? Why not use that as your little niche into wrestling? Because nobody else is doing it, and many people have said that's an untapped audience that like you say, have maybe not come across wrestling before, or maybe these wrestlers have not come across the church before and the teachings. And, you know, I'll still advocate for Kingdom Wrestling and say that they're an amazing company and that they have an amazing message, because even though I don't share the same, you know, religious beliefs, I can still say that everything that they say is 100% honest to God and honest to people. And Gareth has a way of doing it where you don't feel like you're sort of being lectured.
Yeah.
I grew up in a school system that was very religious, so I think maybe that's what's kind of pushed me away from it.
Yeah.
But in that sense, I can still listen to what Gareth has to say, and I can still, you know, respect it and say that's actually a really good point that he's putting across. And, you know, Gareth's one of the biggest advocates for men's mental health. And that's something that, you know, a lot of people need to acknowledge, and I feel does need a lot more acknowledgement in the world. And it's slowly getting there.
Oh, bit by bit. Talking of Kingdom, another name I just wanted, before I'll let you get going, dudes, apologies, like I said, I just clocked the time, but we had Joel Cobra on several weeks ago. Obviously, I know you've crossed paths with Joel at Kingdom.
Yeah, I have. Actually, about a month ago, I want to say. And he actually... I actually broke the board in the ring because he choke slammed me that hard. The board snapped.
Good. Again, it's just people that I've kind of known for a long time, or just like to acknowledge, just show love to. And Joel's one of those guys. We like Joel. I think he's good. He's a good human being. So if I get a chance to just say his name, I will do. So yeah. Mate, I'm just, yeah, like I say, you know, hitting an hour and 10. What's going on? Let's hype you up. You got anything coming up? that you want to let people know about? Anything, where they can find you?
There's a new company that's starting up in Barnsley called Super Pro Wrestling.
That's right.
I've got a 2 out of 3 falls match with Evan Knight who's trained at UKW, PPW. He trains at Rampage. We're at Rampage Brown's facilities now, and I'm very looking forward to that because it's going to be a cardio. It'll be a very big match for me in the sense that I've not probably wrestled that long in an extended amount of time. And it's going to be a lot of it could essentially be 3 matches in one night because it's 2 out of 3 falls. I could win one, he could win one, and then we're down into the the final score, and it could go right down to the line. I mean, we could even draw, and then we might even have to have like an extra 5 minutes on top. And fingers crossed, it don't last that long. But yeah, it's going to be a big challenge for me, and I'm really looking forward to working with Evan again.
Dude, or just grab your kendo stick, crack him over the head, lose the first one, and then get 2 quick ones because he's foobarred.
Yeah, you could try that. I could try that. That's a really good call, actually. But then then the people might dislike me for it, and I quite like the Barnsley crowd. They're quite down to earth. They quite enjoy my presence, and places like New British Promotions and KMR Promotions are also around Barnsley, and British Wrestling Federation. These are all like small little companies that are dotted around this sort of Wakefield, Castleford, Barnsley, Leeds area, and I've been. I don't want to say I'm getting like a bit of a cult following, but there's a lot of fans that I'll see turning up to shows that are wearing the Horus shirt, and I recognise them in every show that I go to. It's almost like they're following me around, and it's great. It's absolutely fantastic to be able to say, to recognise members of the audience in different companies. Like I went up to Grimsby and wrestled in Grimsby, and there was people there that I recognised from shows that I've done in Barnsley. So they've travelled all this way just to come and watch me, and they're wearing the Horus shirt. And I'm like, this is amazing. I must be doing something right. And that's
it goes back to that, dude. It goes back to that validation. It goes back to the confidence. You got this fan base growing. Again, that wouldn't be happening if you weren't doing something right. So just keep building the confidence, dude. Because, like I say, you're obviously doing something. But yeah, Super Pro was what I was kind of probing for. Then I was wanted you to mention them. Obviously, I've seen them turning up on Facebook. Looking at I know they've got another match they've announced was Madden versus Rex Heartless.
Yeah, street fight kind of style match. That we've got Tommy Rocker, John Allen's as well.
Yes, but I like the graphics. It's obviously anybody who knows me knows I'm a massive comic book geek. So yeah, I love the whole sort of the presentation of it at the minute. It's very, like say, comic book heroes, and it looks boss.
Yeah, and Gav Kilner, who's running the company, he's not. I don't think he's ran a show before, but he's got a big passion for wrestling, and he's not one of those people who is just going to go, well, this is what I want. I know what I want. This is what's happening. I don't think he's been a big part of like the wrestling business. He's definitely not wrestled, I don't think. And so he's willing to talk to these other wrestlers, and he'll talk to me, and he'll talk to probably Evan and Tommy Rocker and John Allen's, and he'll say like, how can we improve this product? Because he cares about making a good product. And that's one of the biggest things that I find with a lot of promoters is that they need to, if they care about the product and they care about the way it comes across, then they're going to succeed. It's when they start to get a bit complacent, or when they start to think that they know what's happening, they know what's best, when a lot of the time it would probably fall flat. I
totally agree, dude. I think, if the promoters got that passion behind them, got that genuine desire.
Why I love watching people like JC, who runs True Grit. I absolutely love seeing the way his mind works. I've done a lot of backstage work at True Grit, and just in the sense of like I'll help set up the ring, I'll help set up the show, and I'll do running throughout the show, making sure all the wrestlers have got their gear that they've left in the ring and bring it backstage. And I'm always sending messages back and forth, and I love being a part of it. I love being able to to see the inner workings of a bigger company in that sense, because True Grit I consider to be probably the biggest company in the area, and that's like my main goal at the moment is True Grit. Places like True Grit, Tidal, wrestling in Newcastle. I want to be able to travel all these places and work for these what I would consider sort of like the next stage up companies. These bigger places that I can aspire to be a part of. And I see a lot of people that I work with, like Ace Matthews working at Tidal, and it's great because I hadn't seen Ace in about 3 or 4 years, and then I bump into him at a True Grit show, and it's, oh hi, how you doing? It's great to see you. And I bumped into Tony Knox, the photographer Tony Knox, absolutely amazing guy. But I'd only known him when I was a trainee at NGW, and I'd spoken to him a handful of times. And then he bumped into me at True Grit, and he was, oh, how are you doing? It's great to see you again. I'm going, how did you recognise me? How do you know? How do you remember me? And it's like, oh yeah, I remember you from NGW. You were just one of the trainees there. It's good to see you. About the, still in the business, and it's great to be able to be recognised like that. And someone like Tony Knox, who's, he's been a name up and down the country of one of the best photographers in Britain, is just, it's one of the, it's them nice feel good moments.
Well, pun intended, but I'd say he's got a photographic memory.
Probably, yeah. He must do if he recognised my ugly mug.
Dude. But yeah, obviously, Super Pro. Obviously, if you're in the area, I'll hype up the show. I'll put information about the show, tickets and stuff like that on socials as well. Because obviously for yourself on there, but Madden is coming on the show very soon. So obviously I want to hype up before he comes on the show. So yeah, dude, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. That has flown by. I'm very aware of, I know if we hit like 125, I'm going to be absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned Ian Skinner can talk. I think I've just been rambling on.
No, mate, the less I have to talk, the better. If I could literally, I want Skinner on the show just so I can say hi, and then I'll probably an hour, 2 hours later, I'll be like, yeah, cool, right. And that's it. I'm done. People don't watch this for me. They watch it for you guys, so I'm here to say a minimum.
I really very appreciate you giving me the platform, and like I spoke to you at the Tidal shows when you asked me to be a part of it, and in itself it was a big honor to be asked to be a part of it, to be a part of this podcast, because I've seen so many people who have been a big part of it, and they always have good things to say about Where the Left Side. I'd say it's probably one of the biggest up and coming podcasts regarding British wrestling that's it's really making a mark on the scene. And a lot of people that I speak to go, oh, we'd love to be on Where the Left Side, because it's they have the PPW lot, they have all these big names, they have these guys who have so much knowledge, and to be a part of that group, it's in itself is a big honor. So I do appreciate the opportunity to be on here and to be talking to you, Nick.
Dude, no, like I say, the honor is all mine, and that is genuine. But yeah, right, let people know where they could. Sorry, I don't do compliments. I'm saying I'm just kind of like. Anyway, back to you.
Need a master side behind.
Yeah, I'll just do this. That's my bad. I'll get my hold of it. But yeah, let people know where they can find you on the socials. I think you're more of an Insta guy, aren't you?
Yeah, Horus Wrestler on Instagram. Just search in Young Horus, you'll probably find me. I am on Facebook as well as Young Horus, but like you say, most of my stuff gets posted on Instagram. I'm starting to get a bit of a following there, so I appreciate everyone who's supporting me. And you can always find me, around the Leeds area, West Yorkshire area, wrestling for New British Promotions in Barnsley and KMR Promotions now, Super Pro Wrestling, UK Wrestling as well. And the sky's the limit for me. I'm just looking for the next opportunity, because I just love to wrestle. I love to go everywhere I possibly can, and that's my goal, is just be able to wrestle. Like it was never a goal of mine to be like, oh, I want to go to WWE, or I want to go to America or Japan and stuff. I just want to wrestle, and that was something that was my biggest probably drawback. And something that maybe demotivated me when I first was training. It was that, like, oh, I'm not being able to wrestle yet. I'm still training for years. But that training has gotten me to where I am now. Without that training, I wouldn't be Horus, and I wouldn't be at the level that I'm at. So I can only give thanks and respect to the people like Liam Slater, Nathan Cruz, Caz Crash, Mustafa Khan, Matt Myers. Those people are, some of the most influential names in this industry, I'd like to say, especially in British wrestling. And those are people that I looked up to, and those are people that, I have a lot of respect for, and I appreciate everything that they've done for me, because they gave me this start and they gave me something that I can expand upon.
Yeah, just keep building on it.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, obviously we'll tag you in everything as well anyway. So if you're not following Horus, obviously please do so. You know where to find us on X and Twitter. It's my boy Ash on Insta who deals with all that sort of stuff. So say hi to him. But yeah, the generic ending of an episode. Thank you for watching. Hit like, subscribe, share, comment, all the generic stuff I always ask you to do. And we'll be back on Friday with Bobby Cash and DJ King talking about WCW 2000. So keep your eyes peeled on that. Just me watching it.
I'm sure I will be watching it, definitely. Yeah, it sounds very exciting. I do like the old WCW stuff.
It's so bad, it's great. That's the thing. That's why we're watching it.
I always appreciate cruiserweight stuff from WCW. I watched a lot of Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio Jr., Eddie, and the people of the sorts that they were big inspirations for me, and people like Chris Sabin from TNA. The littler guys, the smaller guys who were doing stuff that was, you see it now, you see it in 2024, you see their level of wrestling, and I remember watching back on some of these and going, I didn't even know that was possible back then. I didn't know that they even thought of that, but it's like almost it's having a resurgence now of the guy.
Halloween Havoc 98, Eddie Guerrero versus Mysterio, one of the best cruiserweight matches ever. Obviously, but yeah, that's WCW 97, 98. It was great at that time. 2000, not so much.
No. When it turned into the millennium, it just started going downhill.
It just David Arquette, that's all I'll say. But yeah, thank you for watching. We will be back very soon, and remember, always work the left side. Goodbye.